Today we are recording and the Oscar nominees come out, and we completely are going to obviously overshadow all that.
Yeah.
Well, I will say this: when the nominations came out, I was glad that it took a little pressure off of me.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I see what's getting recognition out there in the broader conversation, and I can now, even though I don't know what's winning these awards, I can relax on. And my list became like, I don't know, 10 degrees more personal when
Sure.
I saw what they nominated, because I do think the nominees, like, I don't know, some of those. What do you guys think of the Oscar nominees this year? I like
Sure.
that. I like
Was-
that. That's a good bunch of something.
Yeah, man. I loved cinema this year. Like I had a lot of fun in the theater and at home. Like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
What about at restaurants? Did you have
I
fun?
did I did watch a movie kind of tilted on the coffee cup this year. So
Well, no, I'm not saying watching movies, but like, just did you have fun at restaurants this year?
Yeah,
What
I
about
did.
walking to the car? Did you have fun walking? But if there is a quote I would like to share, I don't know if this is said anywhere in any of these movies, but it'll be a quote after I say it tonight, right?
Welcome to a new episode of Movie Schmovie. This is episode number 475, and it's a special episode. It's a top 10 episode, one of our more stressful episodes.
I don't. There's no there. Any quote would be a spoiler tonight.
Yeah, can't give it away because today's our top 10 list.
But if there is a quote I would like to share, I don't know if this is said anywhere in any of these movies, but it'll be a quote after I say it tonight, right? People can quote me on this.
Yeah, it'll be a
But
Movie Schmovie
movie
quote.
schmovies, top movies of the year recording session. What a night for the movies.
What's up? Welcome to a new episode of Movie Schmovie. This is episode number 475. Is that right, John? 475?
Or 75.
Man, and it's a special episode. It's a top 10 episode, one of our more stressful episodes.
Mm.
And I know I can speak for myself. I'm Steve, one of the co-hosts of the show, and as always, I'm joined by
Right.
and
John.
John.
I don't. There's no there. Any quote would be a spoiler tonight.
Yeah, you
you know?
can't do that today, John. You can't give it away because today's our top 10 list.
But if there is a quote I would like to share, I don't know if this is said anywhere in any of these movies, but it'll be a quote after I say it tonight, right? People can quote me on this.
Yeah, it'll be a
But
Movie Schmovie
movie
quote.
schmovies, top movies of the year recording session. What a night for the movies.
I like it.
And timed well as always. Today we are recording and the Oscar nominees come out, and we completely are going to obviously overshadow all that.
Yeah.
Well, I will say this: when the nominations came out, I was glad that it took a little pressure off of me.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I see what's getting recognition out there in the broader conversation, and I can now, even though I don't know what's winning these awards, I can relax on. And my list became like, I don't know, 10 degrees more personal when I saw what they nominated, because I do think the nominees, like, I don't know, some of those. What do you guys think of the Oscar nominees this year? How do you think of the way that it came out?
Beautiful. I mean, a little crazy. A lot of surprises.
What's the biggest surprise?
Delroy Lindo um being nominated for Sinners just blew my mind. The quantity of Sinners and then some of the foreign movies getting acknowledged. I know that sometimes it feels like Americans just don't like foreign movies. I mean that not to especially ones that aren't on a service already. So that always surprises me. So I'm really happy that some of the foreign movies got some attention. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I would agree with that. What about you, Steve? How did you feel about the
Um,
way it turned
no,
out?
I mean I think it's exciting to see a horror movie. Sinners get as much love as it got. I mean, even though like
Hmm.
through all their press releases, it's like a horror movie. I think someone posted on Twitter, like once a horror movie gets nominated for an Oscar, it becomes a supernatural thriller. And it's like all the press releases talking about Sinners is like, supernatural thriller, this and that. But I mean, yeah, through its run, it's like represent the horror genre well. Honestly, a big thing for me is just like the irony in the fact that, Warner Brothers in the midst of, being sold to Netflix and whatever's happening between Netflix and Paramount to try to, or I'm sorry, between Paramount and Warner Brothers to try to undercut Netflix. as one of the majors in the process of possibly being purchased by a streamer, that the two true frontrunners for Best Picture are both Warner Brothers films,
Insane.
and that among those two films, that they have 29 nominations, between Sinners and One Battle After Another, with 16 and 13 nominations respectively.
We call that being a nom hog.
Yeah, yeah, it's just like, but and the funny thing is that like when you go through the numbers and you step one down further, is Frankenstein, which is a Netflix film, which this time next year or the year after that, those three films would all be the same studio, presumably. You know what I mean? If the all things held constant. But I just think it's exciting to see a movie like Sinners get the nominees, like a film like One Battle, across. I was kind of bummed that Chase Infinity didn't get nomination. I really was hoping she would. That's kind of a snub in my book. But yeah, I don't know. It's just exciting to see the genre representation. I just mentioned Frankenstein kind of being in there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know. I just felt like it's one of those examples where the clear frontrunners for Best Picture are mainstream successful blockbusters, in some respect. And that's kind of not always the case. And in recent history, it really hasn't been. There's been examples of it clearly, like with Oppenheimer, but I think in a lot of years, in the past 5 to 7 years, what the frontrunners were dominated by like smaller films, indie films or films that crossed over in some, shape or form. I don't know. But it's cool to see two huge films from Warner Brothers, kind of put out by two studio heads that were on the cusp of being fired and let go because they were making films like this. And, you know, these auteur-driven things that are just big, huge, successful movies. So, that story of it all is kind of what is the most exciting for me. And obviously, seeing like a movie like F1 get in there and, across other categories, seeing other films that I loved have some sort of representation is just exciting. But yeah, Sinners, it's the whole thing for me is Sinners, you know. Amy getting in for Weapons was cool for supporting actress.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Sinners is just like we've talked about it all year long, and it's just kind of like it feels right, even if it's not going to win all these awards, just to be at the party, at the table, because it's a really awesome, special film. So I think Sinners just kind of overshadowed the entire nomination morning.
Yeah, because it was a little bit like, is it going to get the recognition that people say it deserves?
Yeah.
As like, even if it's not your favorite movie of the year, it's sort of like definitely one of the top movies you would say is the movie of the year. Like that there was a conversation going on about it for a long time after it was released.
Yeah.
And people are still talking about it and people are still finding it. And I hate the way it and like One Battle After Another have kind of been like pitted against each other in terms of the awards recognition thing. But I think that inevitably happens. I think in both cases you have directors that are doing really interesting work, and we like those directors. And
Definitely.
I bet Paul Thomas Anderson and Ryan Coogler are very happy to be in the same conversation. But I do think seeing that it got 16 nominations kind of made me relax a little bit and go like, okay, so we're not trying to vindicate the mistreatment of sinners tonight. Which again, it is that movie, and it's like it's crazy how the conversation about it has been framed in the press as like back to when it was getting a certain level of box office and it was being talked about like that amount wasn't impressive, but then other movies that weren't doing as well proportionally would get talked about as like runaway successes if they had like larger than projected opening weekends or whatever.
Totally.
And there seems like there was like a struggle to find a way to talk about Sinners to make it sound like it hadn't been successful, and I don't get that. I saw enough of it to see that it was happening. And it's strange. And I think the only thing that kind of counterbalances that is that resulted in an equally vocal and maybe sometimes annoying sort of group that's like, if you don't put Sinners as the top movie of the year, then you're racist or you're wrong or you didn't pay attention or whatever. And it's like, no, you don't have to love everything about it. But you do have to sort of acknowledge that they were doing something over there. And these awards, like, I don't think people care that much about these awards. That's the other thing that's funny about when award season rolls around and the conversation about a movie like Sinners gets going. There's all this concern about the awards that from people that I don't think really give a shit about awards.
Yeah. You're right. I mean, I think it only becomes a conversation for certain communities when I mean, I'm this is a conversation we can have another episode because I kind of don't want to have it this episode. I want to celebrate these movies. But I will say it is a conversation that can be had when there are certain roles in movies that don't feel like they're fair to certain races or accurate or real or fleshed out to us.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I mean? Like everybody else can say that it's a good movie, but if you're seeing yourself on the screen and it doesn't feel good, which I've heard for a particular movie that I'm not going to point out, but it's happened quite a bit.
I don't
And
think
that's
you need to. I don't think you need to be coded about it. You're talking about one battle after another.
yeah,
But there's certain people in that same community saying, "No, I don't feel that way," and then other people saying, "This is terrible." Yeah, we're talking about the character that is getting award recognition.
well,
actually,
two in there, Pussy Power, whatever the fuck her name is, and then yeah. So, but I will say this: this that's the cool part about what's happening this year. The fact that Sinners and One Battle After Another are even being talked about, like you said, feels like a small miracle that these like isolated performances are being talked about in a way that are just like there's 3, 4 performances from both of those movies that people are talking about. Like, I watched this movie and my body caught on fire, and that to me is like all we really need in this world. Because I feel like there wasn't that yet last year. I feel like honestly, that wasn't quite that intense talk about two movies that were nominated or they wanted nominated. So I think this is a win overall. And it makes me super happy. Even if I got some problems with some of the movies, like it's the fact that they exist, the fact that I have something to watch, the fact that we all have something to watch, the fact that people are going to the movies. I went to the movies to see Sinners 7 times.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like I've seen it in so many formats. I've been to the movies quite a bit this year in general. Uh,
Right.
Good looking out Regal. And it just feels like one of those things. And Gang Gang.
Gang gang.
And Gang Gang. Just one of those things that just feels like a special thing this year. So rather than coming in here and well, actually about a movie, I really want to celebrate them. I felt like, there were friends that were like, aren't you gonna talk about how mad you were when you saw nah. I think there's a bigger conversation to be had of some individual performances that really are gonna be in the annals of time, in those reels. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
for forever those reels at the beginning of the Oscars, the middle of the Oscars, that are just gonna be like, there's gonna be scenes from One Battle After Another. There's gonna be scenes from Sinners that are gonna be in those reels. So that makes me super happy.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
And by the way, I think you can do a little bit of well actually tonight, Ronald. There's no reason not to spice in a little as we go.
Man. I've
No,
been well.
I think that these movies, like every one of these movies, when I'm looking at my top 10 here, they're all conversation pieces on some level, and sometimes I like that. That's what makes me think about what goes on my list is like,
Yeah.
and I guess maybe this is where we can do the typical, go around and talk about how we formulated our list. I will say this. I have fully settled into kind of 2 ways of thinking about it that help me define my list. One is what I said before about like making a list as personal as it can be, and like not thinking about, well, I've got to make sure I mention this if no one's recognizing this, like to be beyond that and just say. And I know it's silly to say that with a small little podcast like ours, but I do always think about like, why am I making a list at all? Because that's not generally the way I think about movies. Making a list of movies is easy. Ranking them is hard. So I try to just make it as personal as possible. But what I've been doing lately, like I think last year I did this for sure, and I may have said something about it. Is like I'm trying to think like when I look back on this year with everything a little more fresh in my mind right now, what movies would I want to put in that scrapbook of this year? Like, what movies would I say, don't forget that came out this year, and like have a little put a pin in that movie, you know? And
Yeah.
that's what my list is for. Is like these are movies that for me, when I look back on the year, I'm going to want to either go back to them or associate them with the year, or I'm going to remind myself, oh yeah, you loved that when that came out, and like not forget to watch it again. I don't rewatch movies a lot, and some
Yeah.
of these movies I realize like I wonder how many times I've put a movie on my best of list and then never watched it again. Um, and at some point, it would be good to look back on all of our lists and see what we think of them and see if we would change anything or see if we even
Sure.
remember why we made the choices we did. Steve, what is this? 475? Episode
475.
500 is coming up.
Yeah.
So maybe for 500 we can do like a look back on a lot of these types of things, because that's actually a bit of a project to go through and listen to all of our top movies podcasts
Yeah,
and make
yeah, it
notes.
almost feels like there would be like an episode where like we could just have like a look back series where we look back at the films that we chose as, the picks for like a year,
Yeah,
looking back at 2020 and saying like which of these films still resonate
yeah,
or 2015 because like, we have them going all the way back. So it's like, yeah, I do that sometimes, like, because I make like the playlists on my Plex server, and I put all my
hmm
like top 10 lists under playlists in there,
That's a good
like
idea.
for like for my parents and my friends are like, hey, what do you recommend? Like, if you're ever looking for something you haven't seen, like check out my top 10 lists, and you can see what you didn't see, but it's broken down by year and in order of my pick. So it's like looking back at that sometimes, like, yeah, well, that one, like, I remember loving that, but like. I don't think I've watched it since then. Like
yeah,
those are the kind
Mhm.
of things you approach it with. It's like, but again, some of those movies though are not the kind of movies that I guess you would rewatch over and
Right.
over again. It's
yeah,
like some of those things are like the impact it had and like the staying power in your brain even without having to rewatch it.
Yeah.
yeah.
There's some of those movies like that. But yeah, that would be kind of fun if we kind of game that out and see how we could do that. That would be pretty cool.
Another thing I think would be cool to compute would be, and maybe Steve, since you're our stats guy, maybe you know the right
Yeah.
term for this, like the spread. Like, what year have we, between the three of us and our top 10 lists, had the most diversity? The like, we could talk about up to 30 films. We're never
Yeah,
talking
yeah,
about
yeah.
30 different films because we have a lot of overlap. I'd like to know like what year we had the most, like the widest spread of movies, and what year it was like probably some shockingly low number if we were all choosing a lot of the same movies, because I do remember there being years where we
Yeah.
were very much in sync as far as which movies we were picking. I don't know if we'll be that in sync this year, because I think a lot of the movies that are on my list are movies that for whatever reason we didn't talk about on the show. So I really don't
Mm.
know if you guys have seen even some of the movies that are on my list. I don't know if you have that feeling. Ronald, Steve, do you have anything on your list that might surprise us, or do you think
I
it's
don't
going to
think
be
so.
right down
I
the
don't think
middle?
so. I
Your
think
bowling strikes.
yeah, come into the list this year. I mean, like we talked about it a little bit last week on the episode. Like even seeing films that I just didn't get to see, and I'm not going to mention names in case they come up on this episode. We mentioned some last week, but I think in
Mm.
general, like even in the context of looking at the best picture nominations today, or like the best direction or editing, like the categories that really kind of hone in on some of the films that I want to watch before the Oscars happen and try to watch before we make this list. But I mean, going back over this year, it's sad that it's probably the lowest number of movies I've watched in the last, 5 to 7 years over the course of the year. Like as tracking them on like Letterbox and things like that. To be able to do this list, it's like this is one of the lower number years I've had in a long time of what I've seen. And it's mainly because over the last 3 months, I haven't really seen a lot of that awards movie stuff that's come out
Yeah.
you know, and a lot of the Best Picture nominees, the categories I just mentioned, there's a lot of those movies that, I just haven't gotten around to watching. And if I end up watching them and, prior to the Oscars, it may affect my long-term list that we're going to talk about today. But I didn't have as much stress going into it, honestly, like trying to watch it all, just because when I looked at my list, I did feel good, like the movies that are on my list are movies I know I genuinely loved.
Yeah.
And it's not like, oh, I got to get one of those small indies in there, or I got to get this genre that I know represents me in there, because I kind of felt like, with the time that I have, it's like I made it to see the ones I knew I had a lot of interest in, and some that kind of surprised me. So, yeah, I don't know. It's like I didn't stress as much this year coming to the list, and just tried to let it represent what I was drawn to enough to find the time to watch, and knowing that there's a lot that I just didn't see. And that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, yeah, I'm not afraid. I don't think this spoils anything to say, like, I made a quick list of 5 movies that, had I seen them, they may have affected my list. So I'm not saying anything about these movies. I'm just saying these movies were
Sure.
not in consideration for me, but they might have been. Blue Moon, the Richard Linklater film with Ethan Hawke. Ethan Hawke? I said honk. Ethan Hawke, the
I think
goose.
you tried I think you almost said Ethan Hunt, and it crossed over into Hawk.
And then I was thinking, am I about to say hunk? Because that's what I think about that guy.
Of course.
But no, Blue Moon, and then Die My Love, I didn't see. Marty is Supreme, I never saw. The Mastermind, I never saw. And Dust Bunny, I never saw. That one kind of snuck out at the end of the year.
Didn't see any of
Any one of
those.
those might have been on my list. Ronald, do you have any that you know might have been contenders, but didn't
Those
make it?
those for sure. Um, Marty Supreme. You have that. Yeah, that. Oh, the foreign one. The Brazilian guy. The guy that was like the
Portuguese Secret Agent?
secret agent.
Yes. Yeah.
Secret agent. I did not see that one, man. I wanted to see it really bad. I have it, and I just didn't have the time. And yeah.
Yeah, most of the best picture nominees to be I wasn't going to go through the list, but yeah, I mean, if we're going to say anything, like I haven't seen half of them.
Uh,
Like
yeah, I
I
mean,
haven't seen, I would say Hamnet,
I want
you
to
guys
see
mentioned
Hamnet.
Marty Supreme, Secret Agent, Sentimental Value, Train Dreams. Uh yeah, I don't know. I just
But we will be talking about Marty Supreme in a
sure.
couple of weeks.
Sure.
Yeah,
And that's part of the reason, like, I'm not stressing, because I'd rather watch it like that, probably with some of my favorite people. And then, if it makes it my list at a later date, that's fine too. But for
Yeah,
now,
yes, for sure.
I'm good with it as it is.
Yeah. That's
no, I felt that when
come
I
on.
realized that we were going to talk about it together, and I'll probably see it for the first time together.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's fine. We could do a little quick asterisk if any of us thinks it would have been in our list.
Right.
But yeah, that was one that I kind of wanted to see
Yeah.
in the theater, and I kept thinking I would get to see it, and I kept thinking I would get out, and it just never.
I know.
Like, that's when my son was even interested in seeing, so we were talking about like going to see that together, and it just sometimes. Anytime someone says it's so sad to go see movies by yourself, I'm always like, no,
No.
I disagree with that, because the second you get an agreement from somebody that, oh, we're going to see that movie together, your likelihood of seeing that fucking movie goes down like
So low.
700%.
It
Totally,
does.
totally true, man.
Because now you're like, what about Saturday afternoon? Oh, well, you know what? Let's wait and find out if da-da-da-da. And then you're like, okay, well, then maybe tomorrow morning. And eventually it's like, if I was seeing this by myself, I could have practically snuck out of the house and gone to see it and
Yes.
come back, and no one would even have to know. I love togetherness, but I don't think there's anything sad about seeing a movie by yourself.
I don't think so either. And if anybody tells you any different, tell them they should probably see a therapist.
Drop the elbow.
I'd probably say, go see, you know what? Like, if you're at the movies with a friend and they say that, like, say, you know what? You're seeing this movie by yourself.
Yeah.
Get up and walk away.
See you later.
No, it's just, I think a lot of times people want to judge the behavior of solitary people out in public
Oh,
as though it's performative. And I think that people that can be alone in public are wonderful. And I think that, like, we should understand that sometimes someone wants to go to the bar and have their sandwich at the bar and read a book, and they're not actually doing that so that you ask them what they're reading or develop any opinions about them or anything. And no, am I a guy who eats alone with a book? No, I'm not at all. I'm not saying that for personal experience. Just try to imagine that, me alone with a book and a sandwich. Honestly, the two things I mention most in life are probably books and sandwiches. So,
It works.
well, a friend of mine, before we get into it, there's one other little thought I wanted to share with you. I was talking with a buddy of mine who was saying that, he was talking about his favorite movies of the year. And I was saying, the thing that we talk about on this show frequently is like people talk about whether it was a good year or a bad year for movies, but I always feel like when we do this episode, I come out thinking like, yeah, it was a pretty good year. Like maybe some years are more exciting than others overall, but it was a pretty good year. And he said he disagreed because, you know, he does like Letterboxd or whatever, and he said most of his favorite movies of the last few years have been 4 stars at most, not 5-star movies. And it just was an interesting thought to me. I don't rank movies like that as I go, but it occurred to me, I don't know if I have that frame in my mind of like, am I always grading on a curve? Like, so whatever the best movie I saw this year is that's great, I feel like that's a 10. But maybe the best movie of the year actually is a 9. And I don't know that my curve has gotten steeper that I grade things on. And I really don't know. I don't have a frame for that because I don't do like day-to-day letterbox style reviews of things I've just watched. I tried to do that with Goodreads for a while and books, and I found that it was very hard to be consistent because at some point you go, wait, if I gave this a 3.5, well, I have to give this at least a 4. And then suddenly you're giving everything like 5s or, you know what I mean? I don't know. I feel like I get caught up in that ranking. So I don't know. Do you guys have a general sense of that this year, how it ranks for you? And do you feel like there's any, do you like Steve, you do that, right? Do you do starred reviews on Letterboxd?
Score it, yeah.
Do you have like, do you think the same proportion of, you know, high scores?
I think only 2 or 3 of my 10, I think I might have given 5 stars. Maybe 2 actually.
You sure it's not that 10 of your 10 you gave 2 stars?
Is that how the math works and everything else? What I was thinking of, the rest got 0 stars. No, I mean, I do that as I watch, like, just so I have like a frame of reference. But even when I rank them, kind of place them, not every time does the score always like go, in order, like, proper sorted. Like sometimes it's just like a vibe, and immediately after it might be a 4 or something like that. But rewatching it, a second time or for this list or something, I might just feel better about it, or I think I don't try to be like super stingy with like a 4.5 or a 5 even. But yeah, I mean, I there's a couple 4.5s and a couple 5s on my list, so I mean, I feel like it's a pretty good spread.
We'll be sure to mention it when you get to the 5s, especially.
Okay. Yeah.
If you could just let off a siren or some sort.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll find something.
Don't you have the app on your phone, the air horn?
Oh gosh.
All right.
Yeah, man. All right. Well, you ready to get into this? I think maybe we just go in the order that we do our required viewing. Ronald, me, John, and just go through what, like John said at the top, or maybe you said that. I think so. The 10 to 6 and 5 to 4 or 5 to 1. So 10 to 6, we'll just kind of go through each and say it. And when we get to 5 to 1, we have a system where basically, we'll say it, but if it shows up, if one of us has it higher, we'll kind of just say whatever we want to say. Hold up, what? Yeah. Sit on that.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about it when it's mentioned collectively or amongst whoever has it on their same list.
Because they pause it
at its highest position. Yeah, that thing.
Yeah.
And I'll do a little thing on the side here where I kind of give the point value, the inverse points, and we'll get a Schmovie top.
I was hoping
maybe a top 3 or 5 or something at the end.
I knew I could count on you.
Yeah, I got you, guy. I got you. Ronald, Ronald, why don't you go for it, man?
Okay. 10 through 6. 10, Tron Ares. 9, The Baltimoreans. 8, 28 Years Later. 7, Predator Badlands. And 6, The Phoenician Scheme.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, I forgot that. That was.
Ooh.
That was.
I like that. I like that. That's a good bunch of something.
Yeah, man. I loved cinema this year. Like I had a lot of fun in the theater and at home. Like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
What about at restaurants? Did you have fun?
I did watch a movie kind of tilted on a coffee cup. this year. So that
Well, no, I'm not saying watching movies, but like, just did you have fun at restaurants this year?
yeah,
What about
dude.
walking to the car? Did you have fun walking to the
Not
car?
so much. Not so much. It was so cold.
I know. Right now is, you know what? This time of year, this is the time of the year where just walking to the car sucks so fucking
Sucks
bad.
so bad.
All right,
Yeah.
Steve, 10 through 6.
10 through 6. Zootopia 2, Eternity, 28 years later, The Life of Chuck,
What?
Wake Up Dead Man, A Knives Out Story. Yes,
Ooh.
Your 28 years later is the same.
as yours.
Yeah.
That's correct.
If we had like the Oscars voice piping in right now, they would say, John just realized that he forgot Life of Chuck when he made his list for the year.
I thought you probably did.
But so yeah, it might have been somewhere on my list. I loved that movie. Very sweet. Okay, so my 10 through 6. My 10 through 6. My 10 through 6.
He's glitching out,
I'm
guys.
trying to build anticipation. No, that was like a manual echo. Number 10, Asterisk, Thunderbolts. Number 9, Weapons. Number 8. And now 8, 7, and 6 are kind of like tied. These are all three directors I love doing like their best work, but I put them in order just because you have to put them in order. So this is like 6
That's
that have
what it
the
is,
same
yeah.
score.
That's what you do.
But I'm just saying, technically, any of these could have been switched around, and I would be
Sure.
fine. 8, Superman. 7, Sinners. 6, One Battle After Another.
All right, perfect.
So we're some villain schemes, but his numbers up. Darkwing Duck. I don't know why that came in my
Oh man.
So those
All
were
right.
3 very different
Yeah, man. That's
6 through 10s.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think some surprises. What was your Phoenician Scheme was your 6, right?
Yeah. Have you guys seen that?
Yes.
I don't think
Okay.
I saw it. No, that's
No,
why
I
when
loved
you
it.
when
Oh,
you
man.
said it,
But
I
it
was
was
like,
not
I feel
fresh
like I
enough in
wanted
my
to see
memory.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I
Just-
loved it, but it wasn't fresh in my memory when I was making my list today. So I think it suffered a little bit because I hadn't seen it recently enough. But I remember thinking it had. I mean, when every time I think about it, I remember some other actor who was really fun in that movie. Like
So-
Bryan Cranston was great.
Because people
Michael
like
Cera was great.
Benicio del Toro was incredible in One Battle After Another. I'm like, he led a whole movie this year. Did you know that? It's like he was incredible in the Phoenician Scheme.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, it's crazy, 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 crazy.
All right, cool. Ronald,
Okay, my number
number 5.
I know no one has this on their list.
Perfect.
Number 5, Park Chan Wook's No Other Choice.
Hold it.
Oh, shit! John just came in hot.
Yes,
Damn.
Oh, wait,
you were so
pause it.
confident.
I was so
Yeah.
confident
You're like, pause it, hold it.
because no one talked about it, and I was like,
Damn.
and everybody knows how much of a Park Chan Wook fan I am, and I was like,
Now, did you both see it recently, or is that why it wasn't talked about? Or
fairly recently,
okay, yeah. So that's probably logical.
fairly recently, yeah.
All right, cool. So then my number 5, I'm gonna guess it's on nobody's list, but stranger things have happened today. It's K-pop Demon Hunters.
Oh,
It's a good one.
Yeah, so I mentioned it a few times on the pod. It's maintained its relevance. It's a juggernaut. Netflix. I feel like the soundtrack, the Billboard charts, the music, the animation, the story, just the cultural kind of it broke through, which is like Netflix is constantly trying to do. And the irony behind it being a Sony property that they acquired during the pandemic and all that story. But in the end, it's just a really, really great movie. Like
Yeah.
animated, anything. It's one of my favorite animated movies I've seen in a while. But it's also one of my favorite movies I saw this year. I've probably seen it no less than a dozen times.
Holy moly!
And yeah, because it's like I have 2 young kids.
Yeah,
and it's like
it is
both
like-
kids are obsessed with it. They walk around my house with the T-shirts on, and they have the derpy
That's so
shirt
cool,
and
dude.
the Huntrix shirts, and no shame that like I love the soundtrack. The music is incredible. Golden getting nominated for Best Original Song, the Oscars today, is great. I think it's probably going to win, and it may also win Best Animated Feature, which is really exciting.
Yeah.
Um, and I just love this film. I've championed it since I accidentally watched it when months back. It started hearing buzz about it, and talked to you guys about it, all my friends and family, and everyone that I've know that has watched this movie has at least really liked it, if not loved it. Even people that had no interest in watching it, that just kind of went for it because of how everybody was talking about this movie. And yeah, it's my number five. I absolutely love K-pop Demon Hunters.
Yeah.
No, it's a movie I have not seen, but it's a movie I totally believe is good because of how many people like it. Do you know what I mean? Do you
Yeah,
know
yeah.
movies like that have that quality to it, where it's like I'm sure I will enjoy it when I watch it,
Yep.
because so many people like it. I mean, I'll be shocked if I don't. I guess I should say, if because so many of the right people have been like, either no, it's great, and my kids love it, but also
Yep.
just people that are like, it's actually really good, And then I've heard a few of the songs, and they seem like really legit. Like, I don't listen to a lot of K-pop, but every now and then I'll hear a really cool song
Sure.
that fits that genre. And the songs I heard from this film sounded very much like legit songs. So I think that helps
Yeah.
a lot with this movie having kind of a life outside the movie, because it gives you something to relive without just watching a movie countless times. You've got music that you can play, and it's the kind of pop that fans of that kind of pop like to play something over and over. You know what I mean? So it's just like it's kind of brilliant, actually, when I think about it that way. Like, how to get your movie in people's minds is to have some other thing served up that they they can't resist. So
Yeah.
Loved it. Loved it. Thought it was great. I
You
mean,
saw it, okay.
yeah, I
didn't watch it,
mean,
okay.
K-pop is just black 90s R&B. Let's be honest. Which is
but it's a little bit more like, I don't know, there's something shinier about it.
yeah. I mean,
Not in a good way. I'm just saying it's different in
it's,
some way.
it's cool because there's like it's like what it is it's exactly what Asia is when you see an American version of a thing. Like,
Right.
you may go over and hear something or taste something, you're like, this looks like an American burger, and then you taste it and it's like, this is not an American burger at all. There's some elements that are very different in here. There's different elements in here.
Right.
And that's essentially what it is. Like, it's like a version of 90s R&B, and then like the other stuff too. So like, I'd say like Jodeci and well, not Backstreet Boys, the 90s,
New Kids on the Block.
New Kids on the
Yeah.
Block. New Kids on the Block, and it's kind of a fusion, because that was all that dance stuff, like dancing and singing at the same time, which I think is so hard to do. I don't. If anybody acts like this is like an easy thing to do, I also say this because I've read a lot of think pieces about this stuff, because there's not a lot of acknowledgement of where it comes from.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
everybody knows where it comes from, and but people act like it's a really easy thing to pull off. These kids are making masterful music, masterful music. Like, you want to make it, if it's so easy, go back a K-pop song right now. Like,
Yeah.
that stuff is intricate, it's well made, the musicality is incredible, and then they have a dance move for everything. So I'll never knock that, man. I'll never knock K-pop. I think it's a masterclass. Yeah, so
Cool.
All
John?
right. My number 5, Yorgos Lanthimos' Begonia. And I was trying to think of like what would be the simplest way to get into why I picked this movie and why I loved this movie. I mean, I had a lot of fun watching it. It's like that's always a plus with this kind of movie. I think Yorgos's movies often have some weird pull to them to me, like the way they're made. Like, I think he's got a very visceral sensibility, and genre is kind of something he plays around with, but his movies have kind of like a grit to them or something, or something, like from Poor Things to what's The Lobster. I mean, these are movies that when I think about them, I think about
Love the Lobster.
some hard hitting moment or some really extreme scenes that occurred in them, and I think that that's something he can do. And obviously, he's got a great relationship with Emma Stone. God, I was about to call her Emma Roberts.
Didn't he
With
do
Emma Stone.
Dogtooth?
Yes, he did Dogtooth. And then he
love
did Kinds of
Dogtooth.
Kindness, which I did not see. But anyway, he's done a few movies now with Emma Stone, and he's also done a couple now with the person who, if I'm going to say in 2 words what I love about this movie, I think Jesse Plemons is so good in it, and I think that like he's just like when I was watching it, I like his performance so much. I almost texted you guys one of those texts we occasionally will just text each other like, man, Jesse Plemons, man. But I just wanted to say, like, I feel like he's one of those actors that has, like, he's not necessarily one of our guys, but he's come up in these years that we've been doing the show and watching him pop up in things and going from being like, oh, who's that guy with that real distinctive look, you know, to a guy who, like, he's become like a comedy sniper. Like in something like Game Night, he's got so many great moments that are just complete, like him knowing how to use his energy for this and for that and for this, and he can be charming and a little more self-effacing and whatever. And in this film, he's playing a character who is, you know, you see that he's unwell from the start, and he's doing some pretty crazy things, and it's a Yorgos film, so he's doing some extreme things, and you get some, you know, a little bit of implied kind of gore, not quite body horror, but a certain level of violence that's just really striking. And, you know, you spend the movie debating, like, wait, am I meant to think this guy's just nuts, or am I meant to think that maybe he's got a little more something going on? And so that's kind of the game of the film, but the performance still has to be a grounded human being. Like, you can play things that can be taken ambiguously, but you can't just walk on set and say, all right, I'm going to be ambiguous all day, you know? So I find it amazing when an actor can make a movie like this feel like there's an emotional through line to their character, even though you're playing a game until you find out like what's really going on here. You're playing a little bit of a game with like, you know, like, should I be paying attention to this protagonist or should I be hoping that they get medical help, you know? But he's just kind of, there's something kind of magnetic and fun to watch about this character, even though this is a really extreme film. I won't spoil the plot for anyone that hasn't seen it, but I will say that there, in addition to the great performances by Emma Stone and Jesse Plemons, we've got this newcomer guy. What is his name? I think it is Aidan Delbus. Yes, who is a new actor and a very interesting screen presence. And I would just say, just watch the movie and you'll see what I mean. I mean, the guy's just so real and so unconventional. His rhythms and everything feel very fresh for a movie like this. And then if you know the comedian Stavros Halkias, he's in this in a role that's not a huge role, but it's it's just fun to see someone like that pop up in a movie like this, and again to see what the movie's, the kind of trick it's playing on you, and how every character kind of plays into. You know, you've seen this movie before, you may see where it's going, but you don't know exactly how it's going to get you there. And I think that is a real testament to just in some way, this seems like just a good team at this point. Like Emma Stone working with Yorgos, and then Jesse Plemons now. It's like it feels like these are people who are exploring something together and creating something really, really fun to watch. So
nice.
So what does that mean, Ronald? You're number 4.
Number 4.
You're considering the moment.
Yeah.
Making some changes on your end, Ronald.
Yep.
Yep, I can tell.
Yeah.
See those eyes going around.
Yeah. First it was Top Gun in the sky. Then it was Top Gun at a racetrack.
Oh.
F1 is my number 4.
We could just jump into my number 4 because it's also F1, so we don't have to hold it for too long.
I love when that happens.
We can just go right after.
Yes.
Tag team back again. Let's go. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, Top Gun in the sky, F1 on the ground. Kaczynski, you know, you got Brad Pitt in there. Javier,
you want to be Top Gun in the streets and F1 in the sheets.
There it is. Whatever, or whichever you prefer. If you prefer Cruiser or Pitt, you take your choice. But you know where I'm going.
That's true.
But yeah, I don't know. You can start, Ronald. You chose it right before me, and I'll jump on. But yeah, what do you got to say?
Man, whoever was the genius that thought to put Brad Pitt with Damson Idris was a goddamn genius. There's something about the young energy of Damson, it's
Yeah.
this young firecracker that wants to make it, that wants to do it on his own terms, that meets this weathered, it's really he's not quite bitter, but not quite enthusiastic about things in his character, Brad Pitt, that is just feels a little tired, like tired of kind of repeating himself over and over again. And he
Yeah.
gets this opportunity. It just feels fresh and
Totally.
it's like and I think why I was drawn to this is sometimes you don't think about the idea that sometimes you can leave a place and you get valued in a different way. Sometimes the job that you have is shitty, and then
Right.
you go to another place and people are like, "Oh, I value this. I value this about you. I value this about you." And it kind of feels like there was this cool thing that happened when they started working together that just felt magical, magic, really, really cool. Even when they were arguing, I would have watched a couple of outtakes of like just side stories of them just not getting along, going to lunch, arguing about who's better at taking this turn at this particular racetrack. I just love the chemistry that they have. The whole team was just very fun to watch, and the story was simple, and it
Hmm.
taught me F1. I didn't know how this shit worked, and it was like very easy to understand. It's like the best lesson in F1 that you could ever learn, on top of being a fun movie. So
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, all that basically. Talked a lot about this when it came out, and we, in terms of experiencing on the big screen in different formats, and and to see that this film gets a nomination for some of the technical categories as well, sound design, things like that, Best Picture nomination as well. I don't know, just Brad Pitt, I'm in the door, and then you add these other things in there. Again, I don't know anything about F1 either, so to echo your comment, like it is a cool approach to educating an audience that isn't familiar with a sport or a segment of sport that is a massive worldwide phenomenon that just isn't, necessarily as big here, but um growing every day clearly. But I don't know, the cinematography was amazing, the racing sequences were amazing, the cast, just a great cast all around. uh Damson was awesome, and their, yeah, to your point, their dynamic together was great. For a movie at about 2.5 hours, the movie flies by. Like it is one of the most fast paced. I think the ability that they, how they shot during actual F1 races, and the fact that you can kind of dance around the globe, with these races, it kind of just makes the movie move quickly. And I think the third act is just is just great. Like the last 25 or so minutes of the movie is awesome.
Mm.
Yeah, and I don't know, like the Brad Pitt factor for me, like it just has a huge impact on my experience with this movie, but it also is just extremely entertaining,
Yeah.
and like one of those, just like, go see it on a big screen, have fun at the theater, and people walking out talking about it. My wife loved it, just had a blast watching this movie. Saw it multiple times as well. But yeah, absolutely loved F1.
All right.
John, what's your number four?
My number four. Another film by a director that I like, who takes an interesting perspective and can be very unsettling and funny. And this time I don't know if it's Ari or Ari. I've heard people say Ari Aster, but I feel like Ari sounds more natural. But Ari Aster's Eddington. Um, in short, I think there's very few movies that have dealt with what it really felt like during the pandemic,
Mm.
like the sort of, and now we can look at a certain kind of divisiveness in our culture. Like there's all these things that felt divisive at the time, but when you
Yeah.
look back, that it feels quaint compared to what's going on now. And I hate that we keep hitting those points. Like I remember looking back on the Tea Party and thinking like, well, that seems really quaint compared to what we have with with modern day MAGA. And I feel like watching this film, it was interesting. There's my word. Hey, drink if I say interesting. Um, but it was what word could replace interesting, guys? I mean, because captivating and fascinating don't really fit because that's a little too much, right? Interesting is more like I could say intriguing, but I feel like that calls attention to itself. But yeah, it's I guess a more specific word than interesting, and I guess so in this sense I would say it's a very astute film in terms of how it approaches those moments because the character Sheriff Joe Cross, played by Joaquin Phoenix, who's really the heart of, in the best and the worst way, he's the heart of Eddington. He's not a bad guy.
Right.
He's kind of regressive and a little reactionary, and he's a little set in his ways and conservative or whatever things that might make you think he's the stereotypical kind of small town sheriff holding on to the way things used to be or whatever. But the movie doesn't make him into a cartoon punching bag because of that stuff. It almost shows him in some ways as being more genuine than the slightly performative incumbent mayor character played by Pedro Pascal. His name was Ted Garcia. And like the movie's much less of a two-hander between those two guys than you might be led to think by the, just the two names, and then the poster makes you think it's going to be like Joaquin Phoenix versus Pedro Pascal. It's more like Pedro Pascal is one of the many forces that Sheriff Joe Cross comes up against in his reaction to what's going on, and in his like assumption of more of a role. And so you see this guy who's kind of small-minded but kind of trying to do the right thing, who gets a little taste of something bigger, and you see how it kind of totally destroys him, his integrity in a lot of ways, but also the way the situation just spirals out because the things that, like Ted Garcia as the incumbent mayor, the things that he's trying to do are not great. So I don't know, there is a lot of commentary about moral compromise in this film, and again, seeing a guy who's maybe not the best man for the moment be the man who is here in this moment, and that's Joaquin Phoenix's character. And I would even say the arc of this film, I saw it before I saw One Battle After Another. It has similarities to One Battle After Another that made certain things about the conclusion of One Battle After Another feel like it was doing an Eddington a little bit to me. But that obviously is just a coincidence that these two films came out in the same year, and they both have a similar sort of, without saying anything, but like the way that an antagonist ends up in the film is a little bit similar.
Gotcha.
But even so, it's an acting tour de force for Joaquin Phoenix, who I just find to be one of the most watchable performers. And when he really digs into a character, and like in Beau is Afraid, the last Ari Aster film, which a lot of people found, too long or too weird or whatever, that movie was in many ways hilarious. This movie has a lot of that same kind of comedy, and Joaquin Phoenix just, I don't know, there's something about his pace, his rhythm. He works well with Ari Aster's awkward, demanding kind of tone. There's just something, I feel like Ari Aster and Joaquin Phoenix understand why this character is kind of super funny, even though he's not that funny on screen, and he's a little bit scary what he represents, but there's something very funny about him in the moment and in the performance. There's a lot of little character stuff that is just so well observed and funny. So yeah, I recommend it. I know that, again, it's a little bit of a demanding watch for some folks, but if it sounds at all like it's up your alley, knowing that it's kind of a social satire and an actual story, it's not just a movie full of symbols. It's a movie that tries to deal with characters and how people are behaving. But it does try to make you think about that period during the pandemic when you realize that, okay, there's people with wildly different ideas, whichever side you're on. There's people with wildly different ideas from yours about how to handle this, giant problem. Like as a community. So
Cool. Yeah, I haven't checked that out yet.
Number 4.
Number 4, Ronald.
It's my turn.
It is.
Okay.
This is number 3 for you, Ronald.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
No, I just need to make sure I get the right director.
I've made no moves on my list. When someone said Life of Chuck, that was a little bit of a hint for a second. Am I going to shuffle things around? And then I just decided, no, I can't.
I forgot they share the directorial. My number 3 is a 2-director movie. I talked about it quite a bit when I first saw it. Gang Gang, of course. Alex Garland and Ray Mendoza's Warfare. This movie had an insane impact on me. Um, it's I'm not really big into war movies. I mean, but this one had such a big impact on me. It felt like it was like a real time thing. Watching something that feels like it's paced. When they say 10 minutes, it really means the soldiers are coming around in 10 minutes. 5 minutes, there's some terrorists coming. It feels
Yeah.
so real time that there's a pacing to it that feels so frantic and scary, and you kind of fall in love with these characters really quickly because they're charismatic soldiers, kids. Um, but I thought this was such a really good movie. Um, Cosmo Jarvis, man.
Oh, yeah.
Cosmo.
This would have been in my. We'll get to these later, but that's one of my honorable mentions. I think it was like
Okay,
I think it was like my 14.
gotcha,
But yeah,
gotcha.
great movie, awesome. Technically, also to watch in a theater, it was wild.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
man.
I was going to say, Ronald, have you watched that one in your home
Not
system?
yet.
I
I
bet
bought
it's
it.
gonna. I bet it's gonna kick ass in your
Yeah.
home system.
Yeah, I just bought a
It'll
physical
be
copy.
totally triggering for anyone with PTSD.
You're right,
It's
right.
like, what a great compliment to your sound system, but what a horrible movie to be like, this is super immersive. I feel like I'm actually in the middle of a gunfight.
Right. So I have a friend that listens to our podcast that has some war experience, and I'm always like, "Are you sure when you come to my house you're gonna be good?" He's like, "Turn that shit up." He's like, "I need it to be as loud and boomy. I want to hear all the guns." I'm like, "All right, man. I just don't want to mess with your PTSD." You know?
You're a good friend.
Yeah. Try to be considerate, man. Who's next?
Me. My number three is One Battle After Another.
Woo!
Yeah, there's John. You was on. Yeah, it was on yours. That's right.
Yeah, it was my
Yeah, I don't
number
know. Like
six.
this is one of the more like the big movies that I saw probably within the last month. I think Aaron and I finally watched it together. Um, yeah, I don't know. I just think the performances are great. I really like Leo in it. I really like Benicio in it. Again, my snub for the Oscars was Chase Infinity. I thought she's great in it.
Just a few small
Um,
beers.
what's that?
Just a few small beers.
Yeah. Oh my God, that scene's so funny, man.
It is.
He's so good. He's really. I mean, I know you mentioned earlier Ronald in the Phoenician Scheme. I haven't seen that, but Benicio is really just so great in the movie. Like the command that he has over the performance and in the
Yeah.
story, his command of every moment that he's in, like versus every scene he's in with Leonardo DiCaprio, where he's just completely like just no control, has no clue what to do. Like it's just completely useless. Where Benicio is just like it's like truly a sensei. He's just like
Yeah.
he's like follow me, come upstairs. It's like sit down right there.
So good, and he's so funny and
he's
so
so
real. I don't know
fucking
how he
funny.
does it, but he's just
Yeah.
arrived at a point in his life
Yeah.
where he just we've been inoculated with like the Benicio del Toro virus ever since he
True.
popped up in his first roles, where we were like, why is this guy mumbling? Can a guy
Yeah,
who looks like that
yeah.
really be a movie star?
Right,
and
right.
then on through things like Sicario, where we were like, oh my God, this guy's a fucking badass.
Yeah.
To like now where he's
So
just
true.
he's one. I mean, similar to the way I was saying about like the way Jesse Plemons just makes me buy into a character.
Oh,
Benicio's just he's got an unusual energy, but he makes me buy into his character, no matter what he's doing. In fact, I think about my favorite little moments of his. They're all small moments, like the few small beers moments. Like I think
Yeah.
about his last little moment in The Last Jedi. I don't think about many pieces of that movie that much,